to Orlando Matters on a Saturday morning. Today we're talking about a number of issues from all across Central Florida. By the way, have you heard of Ban the Box? It's a new initiative to get rid of the application question asking prospective employees if they've ever had a conviction. So is that a good idea to get rid of that question, or is that something that one really needs to know before they're hired? Welcome back to Orlando Matters on a Saturday morning. Okay, question this morning. Should former convicts get a clean slate after they've served their time? A new push called Ban the Box is meant to give them a better shot at getting a job after they've done their time in prison. Fox 35's Andrea Jackson has that story from Daytona Beach.
Good morning.
Daytona Beach City Commissioners joined community leaders today to announce the city's plan to reduce employment barriers for people with prior convictions.
The city of Daytona Beach joins over 100 cities and counties across the country who have banned the box. 17 states have banned the box, so this is something new. This is a tried and tested policy, and I'm excited that it's happening here in my city.
On the steps of City Hall, an effort is now underway to expand job opportunities to people with prior convictions by removing the criminal conviction question from certain city job applications. The policy, known as the Fair Chance or Ban the Box, does not require applicants to disclose their conviction history on initial employment applications.
This does not deviate from any other background that has to be done. So if you're working directly with kids or supervising kids, you'll still have to go through the formal DCF background process.
For people like Edward Barnes and LaShanna Tyson who served time, Daytona's Fair Chance initiative is a game changer.
Given a chance, they paid their dues to society by doing the time. I think give them a job so they can pay their bills. I believe that if you give a man or woman no option, then you leave them no choice.
You have no idea how much of an impact this is going to have for people like me, because we want to do the right thing. But when you have no other option, you can't get a job, you can't get housing, you can't get education, you can't get anything. That leaves you hopeless.
In the city of Daytona, I'm Andrea Jackson, Fox 35 News.
And joining me now to discuss the Ban the Box initiative is Mykal Tairu. You saw him in the video. He's the state coordinator for the Vincentian Reentry Organization Project. And LaShanna Tyson, you also saw her in the video there as well. Guys, good to see you. Thanks for coming in today. LaShanna, let's start with your story. Take us back to 1998. What happened?
I gave a ride to two guys, took them to the store. They robbed the store. And I ended up going to prison for 15 years because of my participation. They took his life. And it just threw me into a whole nother world I had no idea about. I had never been in trouble before. But when it happened, I felt I was going through so much pain, and I didn't have a clue of who this guy was. But I know that if I was hurting that much, his family was hurting much more than me. And I thought to myself then, if I was that victim's family, what would I want? I would want them to go to jail, and I would want them to pay for it. And so I surrendered myself to the Orange County Jail in 1998 and accepted responsibility, and I went to prison for a 15-year sentence.
Did you know what those guys were going to do when you gave them the ride?
I did know that they were going to rob him, but I did not know that they had a gun. I did not even think of anything going wrong because I had never participated in anything like that before.
Why would you even do that back then? Take us back to that time. Why even get involved with these guys knowing what they were about to do?
Young. Dumb.
How old were you at that point?
I think it was 26. Okay. Just not even thinking, just never even thinking that anything bad could happen, you know. Just a bad, dumb choice. And I regret it every day, and I will never, ever, ever get over the fact that someone lost their life. And so I live every day of the rest of my life making differences so that the children out there who are growing up that don't have the proper guidance don't make the same mistake as I did. Everybody's life has a value. Everybody. And you just don't do those types of things. But, you know, peer pressure is a factor, a great factor. And I'm doing everything that I can to ensure that nothing else happens like this to anyone else. I talk to everybody, every kid, every teenager, everybody that I know, to not go down the path that I went down.
So you did your time. 13 years served, right? 15-year sentence, 13 years served. What did you think when you got out of prison that life was going to be like for you?
Well, I honestly, when I turned myself in, you know, I didn't know much about prison or jail or anything like that, but I thought that it was a place for rehabilitation. And however, once I got there, I realized that there was no rehabilitation in there. You're either going to change or you're not. It's like we just had babysitters around us. And I thought that when I went in, I was going to be rehabilitated. I was, but it was all God and nobody else. Change coming into my life and changing my thought process that this life is not about me, it's about other people and what you can do for them. And when I was released, I thought that I was done. I thought that I had paid my debt to society in full, and I thought that I was going to come home, go back to college, go and get 2 jobs, because God knows I worked 12 hours a day. I worked like a man in prison, and I knew that I could go to McDonald's and run it, and then go across the street to Burger King and run that too, and still not be tired. I really worked hard in prison for virtually nothing.
But then you get out and find out nobody wants to hire you. Mykal, you hear this story all the time, I assume, right? Her story's not unique.
Yeah, definitely, and I guess that's the unfortunate part about this is LaShanna is not an outlier, right? And so this is the story of about 1.54 million Floridians and over 2 million United States citizens. And so when folks get out of prison, they do their time, you know, they oftentimes face a lot of barriers, right? They can't find jobs, they can't get housing, they can't get employment, they can't, you know, vote and participate in the political process. And so what we're trying to do, and I'm currently serving as the program coordinator for the Society of St. Vincent de Paul's Reentry Project, which is a partnership with the Catholic Campaign for Human Development and the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, which is a Catholic lay organization that does, you know, seeks to grow spiritually through acts of charity, but now is really looking more towards systemic issues, right? And so we're trying to address some of those barriers that individuals like LaShanna face, returning citizens, we try to use that term now, that returning citizens face after they get out of prison. That's where Ban the Box comes in. We've been organizing in Daytona Beach, we've been in St. Petersburg, we've also been in Orlando, actually, and we were successful in all 3 cities. And so that's kind of the area that we're kind of serving in and addressing more of the systemic issues that formerly incarcerated individuals face.
Because as soon as they get out, first thing they're going to see is this box that says, have you ever been convicted of a felony? We're going to talk more about that coming up. We're going to take a break. We'll get more on that story and more on how many cities are getting involved in this right here on Orlando Matters. Welcome back to Orlando Matters on your Saturday morning. We're talking Ban the Box today. It's the Ban the Box initiative taking place across the country. Mykal Tairu once again and LaShanna Tyson. Guys, thanks again for hanging out all day today. LaShanna, so many things I'm learning today. You get out of prison. You've done your time. You did your 13 years. And you say, okay, I'm going to make myself better. I'm going back to college. What happens? So
I went to apply at Seminole State, where I used to go before I went to prison. And when I got there, they told me that I had to pay out-of-state fees because I did not have a driver's license post-dated for a year. I was in prison in 2010, so there is no way I could have a driver's license. So in order for me to get into college, again, I had to first obtain a license, and I didn't exist in the Department of Motor Vehicles website anymore. They had no record that I had ever had a license, and so it took a while for them to actually locate it. And once I received it, I had to wait for a year to pass by. And I also had to get a second form of identification, which was like a vehicle registration or something like that. And so
it's been 13 years. Yeah. You don't have any of this stuff anymore.
I finally got into college in 2013.
Wow.
Summer 2013.
What's it like, though? You get your degree, you go in to apply for a job, there's that box that says, have you ever been convicted of a felony?
It's everywhere. I'll actually complete my degree. The beginning of next year is my last semester, and I'm in school for legal studies because there's some things wrong with the law, and I need to know the law in order to fight it effectively. So that's my motivations for legal studies. But then I'm not even sure if I can get hired as a paralegal anywhere anywhere.
Because you'll have to check the box.
Employers will just see that and they'll discount me.
Mykal, let's talk about that though, because I mean, you seem to be a great person. I don't know you, okay? You worked hard behind the prison walls, but you also have some pretty bad people coming out. You would want to know what their background was, right? So that's the problem.
Yeah, definitely. So I talk to a lot of people about this, and the first thing they say is, well, what about the, background checks? They're important, and I believe that as well. I tell everybody that, my wife is a school teacher, and background checks are very important, especially when we work with some of the most vulnerable populations among us, right? So what Ban the Box doesn't say that I can never look at your background. Ban the Box says, I'm not going to look at your background until I'm ready to hire you.
Right.
So essentially,
so you get to know someone like LaShanna, you're like, wow, good person, you did your time. What happened there? You get the story, and then you say, right. Okay, I understand that.
She's a good human being, right?
Right, she worked hard.
Right. So Ban the Box postpones the background check to later on in the hiring process, and that's what just happened in Daytona Beach and also in Orlando. And over 100 cities and counties across the nation and states have got on board with Ban the Box as well. And so it doesn't eliminate background checks. It just it gives the person the opportunity to present themselves before being immediately disqualified based on the stigma of a check box.
So you're still going to figure out the background of this person eventually, but you get to know them first.
Yeah.
What about renting? You just told me something that blew me away.
Yes. So when I couldn't get a job and I couldn't go to college, God just sent me in a different direction. I applied for a real estate license. I went in front of the FREC and it was totally honest, and they gave me a license in June of 2012. In September of 2012, I sold my first house to a cash buyer. I took my commission check to go and get somewhere to live because I just wanted my own space. I had lived with 86 women for 13 years. I wanted my own space.
Room, yeah.
And my search went from complex to complex, and everybody told me no because of my felony. And I got to the last place, and they told me that I just got frustrated. How long do I have to wait? This is ridiculous. I'm a realtor now. And they told me 99 years. And that's just
rent in 99 years.
99 years. Neither one of us would be living in, but that's what she told me.
Wow.
Common story?
Yes, and even in the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, we have conferences at different churches across the country and across the world, actually. And we're engaging individuals who are affected by our incarceration and reentry policies. And so this is a story that we hear all the time, right? So people can't do things, but a lot of folks don't have the drive that LaShanna has, right? And so, she waited 2 years to go to school. She waited and kept applying for jobs. Most people, they don't have that type of drive, and they go back to what they know, which is oftentimes illegal activity, which puts them right back in the place where they just.
It's funny you say that because we hear so many times guys and gals who get out and say, I felt more comfortable behind bars. You knew your routine. You had 2 jobs. You could do your thing. Out here it can be scary.
It is.
You get no opportunities. No one wants to talk to you. I'm curious too. How did people respond to you differently once you got out? From people who knew you before to when you got out. How did they view you differently too?
They just knew that I had changed. Everybody saw that I had changed totally. And it was kind of difficult for them to understand me as well as me understanding them. It's like when I went to prison, before I was released, I got a new set of eyes, a new heart, a new spirit, everything. And so I saw things that people were doing every day. I'm like, hey, you don't see what you're doing, and it's like, I just found myself in a place where I always am telling someone, especially with the kids, you have got to be better with the kids because there is another road for them that's just going to lead them to a horrible place. And it was really weird for me. I'm looking at people, I'm thinking that people are crazy. I've done 13 years and I see people walking around talking to themselves, not knowing that they had the little thing in their ear and they're talking. So it was a culture shock for me.
I bet it was. All right, we've got about a minute left. Mykal, I won't leave it with you here. Where do you guys go from here?
So our goal is to address some more of those systemic issues, right? But and I have to say this, that, you know, policy change is a great thing, but our biggest goal is to sort of engender perception change, right?
Yes.
So people look at LaShanna as a second-class citizen and folks with criminal records as second-class citizens, and if we address that perception change, because it's not about policy, this is about our beliefs and perceptions, right? It's whether or not we believe if formerly incarcerated individuals have the capacity to be productive citizens, and they do.
So where do they go for more information on your group? Do you have a website?
Yeah, definitely. Folks can always Google the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. We're on Facebook with Ban the Box Daytona and Fair Chance Florida as well, and they can always contact me. I don't know if you guys have the contact information up, but they can always
Google
on our
website.
Mykal,
Tairu, thank you so much. LaShanna, Tyson, thanks for telling us your story today. Appreciate you coming in today.